we've been warming up talking about Dark Shadows. Now, Jewel, at some point you need to say, "This is Jewel Stain, resident of Collinwood. I'm here talking to my buddy Patrick McCray, my good friend Alan Gallant. We're here to talk about episode 663." So that's I expect it, and I expect it good. I expect it tight, disciplined. So whenever you're ready,
Take
action.
The timer's already going. I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Joel Say. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. That's my buddy Alan Gallant.
So just like that. So do it just like that.
Yes. And if you have actual applause, we accept it. We're here to review episode 663 of Dark Shadows. This is narrated by David, written by Gordon Russell, directed by Dan Curtis, the show's creator. So, guys, here's my first question. What did you think of Dan's direction of this episode?
It's good. It legitimately stands out. There is, we're talking about the greater nuance and lighting that I think, as the king, he was able to order.
Yes.
It's a little more demanding of the cameras. A little flashy how he uses the cameras, kind of tilt around and zoom in, and he is flexing his muscles. You can tell this is a guy who's thinking, of course, a guy who has the power to take more time,
right,
than his directors do because they're busy being screamed at by him.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a guy who sat there thinking, why don't they ever do this? Why don't they ever do that? I'll show them. Which is, of course, what people do the first time they direct.
That's right. I mean, yes, and I think he had the added confidence of having his, number one director, Leela Swift, whispering in his ear, telling him, "You can do that. You can do that. That's fine."
And he knew the producer had his back.
Yes,
the whole time, 100%.
Yes.
Yes, well, Dan Curtis stands behind them with the golf club. Anyway,
one way to get your actors to motivate.
Yeah, do you think Dan held a 9-iron or did he hold the driver?
It was probably a putter,
just a paycheck.
That's right, with a paycheck wrapped around it.
No, but I agree with you guys. The lighting is really, really good in this movie. You can sort of tell, Leela is telling him that, you can do this and this. Because something Leela Swift would do, she would shoot a character's feet a lot and work there to make you either
like Tarantino, that sense.
Yeah. And so Dan is doing that too. He's shooting the feet of Barnabas Collins as he's walking across toward his father's study. Lieutenant Forbes is there waiting with Barnabas with a crossbow in his goddamn hands, waiting to shoot at Barnabas. The door opens. You see the shadow on the door, which is a very nice trick. And you see, Barnabas is going to go invisible on him. I love how Joel Carruthers does not get enough credit for coming forward, into the doorway. And then he comes back and he says, "Forbes," and you hear the voice. And
this, I believe, was Joel Carruthers' last foray on Dark Shadows, because his he'd already, I think, gone off to Wyncliffe as Joe, and they brought him back for this whole thing because obviously Nathan Forbes is Joel Carruthers, so they brought him back. But I mean, he does a great job. I mean, he shows the same kind of shock when Barnabas disappears for the first time, and I think this is the first time he maybe he disappeared. No, I guess he appeared a couple of times in 1795. I don't know if he actually disappeared, but anyway, this kind of shock that he shows, it was like Dylan going electric. I mean, it was like he's like, what the kind of thing going on, and then he lets the anxiety set in. And then he lets a sort of a relief set in, and that's when you get the jump scare for Barnabas. So, I mean, he layered that really well. I thought that response, that reaction, really, really good job. It's great. And the foot stuff, that's in the actual original direction from the original showdown scene in 1795. So he was definitely taking a cue from the previous direction, but then adding his own touches to it as he went along with various other camera angles and close-ups that hadn't been used in that original shoot. So
Now, I do love how he shoots Barnabas coming at Lieutenant Forbes with the fangs open. This is sort of a preview. You guys talked about House, about Shadows. This is a preview of House a bit because you sort of get the victim's perspective in House, the vampire coming at you.
And on the television show, since it's being shot, live, it's also a practical way to do it. You basically have the reaction while he's putting the fangs in, and then you have the other camera set up for that frontal fang shot. So it works really well when it's a cutaway like that.
Patrick, what did you think, man?
Of what?
Of the fang shot, man. Of the fangs.
Fangs with memories. It was great. I mean, it's a trick they've done before. That's what the reaction shots are all about. Is letting Fred fumble, get fangs in upside down or whatever. Didn't that happen to him more than once?
It happened to him in the very first time.
And that poor guy.
I know.
That poor guy. Imagine how nervous.
Yeah.
It's just, I got something in there, and for a while there's going to be some change. I mean, just whatever I could get in my mouth. It's kind of, in a way, endearingly middle school. In its very practical, I won't say clumsiness, because it was actually a very slick maneuver. But once you know they're doing it, it's really obvious.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, because this is the best they could do. And it is such a kind of an old-fashioned stage trick, kind of bit of misdirection, but it works.
It works. And one of the things it does is, again, it expands the abilities of soap operas to do things, because we're adding cameras. We're not doing this with one camera over here and maybe a second camera, but halfway across the studio for the next scene that we can't use in this scene. We're doing 3 cameras, and this is what we can do with it. So, yeah.
And that's nice. That's really nice. It's like, Desi, I'm going to do you one better.
Yep.
You might have invented this, but I'm going to perfect it.
Yep.
I got to give credit for this episode, too. Cy Thomasoff does not miss a beat with the jail design set coming back here.
It feels like there's a lot of sets in this.
Yeah, it does. You also have the dock set too here with Barnabas.
One of my favorite sets, atmospherically, is the dock set. It's
the thing I love about the dock set is that there's going to be a dock set when you notice fog incongruously entering in the previous scene.
That's right.
And then soaping around in the next scene. And you know what? For me, it's like an added bonus. It just makes Collinwood look that much more mysterious.
That's right. It's a coin flip. Is it going to be the dock set or Eagle Hills Cemetery?
That's right.
I think with the dock set, I always felt the dock set gave that Collinsport that sea town feel, that small fishing village.
Oh, yeah.
They used it in the pre-Barnabas episodes during the daytime. They had a dock set. It was a little different than the one that they used later, but it was definitely for that, to give you the idea. You're in a fishing community here. This is a coastal fishing community, and it has docks and aside from a lot of other trappings.
Yeah. I think it'd be like real cool if when we get a new Dark Shadow series, we get some actual shots of Maine, the coastal line, you know what I mean? That would be really cool.
I can give them the tour.
Yes, Alan Gallant will be your guide, whether you want to or not.
That's when you want to or not. I'll take you down to Hancock Point. I'll take you to Mount Desert Island. I'll take you to I could take you to Kennebunkport if you like that better.
I gotta ask you something, Alan. Did you, because you grew up with that, did you appreciate how stunningly beautiful it was, or did you take it for granted for a long time?
No, we traveled a lot within the state when I was growing up, and US Route 1 is probably one of the most scenic and picturesque ones down the coast. So we used to travel a lot and take 2-week vacations and things because we couldn't afford to go to Europe or any of that sort of thing, or even go, to the West Coast or whatever. So we spent a lot of time near Bar Harbor,
Uh-huh.
It's a really gorgeous island down there, and a wonderful place. We would go to the southern part of the state. We'd spend time up and down from Kennebunk to up to what's called Freeport, where there are a whole bunch of discount stores and so on to go to. We would make that trek once every year or two.
Growing up with it, did you find Moxie repellent or tasty?
Yeah, man, I was a smoker. I thought Moxie was the greatest thing in the world. I mean,
I think if you are a hardened smoker, especially smoking unfiltered,
it tasted better than
tastes
Coke.
fine. Tastes better than the cigarettes.
Yeah, it did. No, I like Moxie actually, but I had to stop drinking it when I stopped doing caffeine because it's loaded with caffeine.
It is. It is.
Jolt. It's almost as jolty as Jolt. That 80s
Jolt
that had like twice.
Guys, I remember that fondly. Like the good teas.
But we all sucked down Moxie. We also, of course, the original Poland Spring water, various other products like that. I was never a huge fan of lobster, but I would eat it. I mean, and I still will once in a while. But
you don't eat the tamale, do you?
No, God no.
God, that's the worst.
Disgusting.
It really is. Jewel, do you know what the tamale is?
No.
It's the vividly colored organ meat
Yeah,
of the boiled lobster. It's horrible.
It's green.
It's just the worst.
Where the rest of the meat is an appealing pinkish color, the tamale is green.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, it's terrible. And some people like it, so whatever. But yeah, I grew up inland actually, but spent a lot of time on the coast. And also I also toured the state a lot when I was with a touring children's theater company. We used to go to school in the state. So I got to see a lot more of the western part of the state where the ski resorts are and all of that sort of thing. And the hunting area.
If viewers don't know about, US Route 1, it is, I think, for me, and I've seen a lot of the US, it's the most breathtakingly beautiful stretch of real estate that I've seen in the United States.
Yes, and it goes all the way down to Key West, Florida, and all the way to Fort Kent, Maine.
I'm just talking about the section from New York to up to Maine.
Yes.
And wow, holy Christ, is it beautiful.
It is. It is. But as I say before, I have a lot of fond memories of that coastal area where there used to be a lot of little cool little tourist traps and hotels and stuff along. It was like Route 66 of coastal Maine, It was,
a great way to introduce. I'm thinking about how Burton sort of introduced Dark Shadows, with the train and all of that. And you gotta have a train. And I think a great way to start, Dark Shadows movie is that maybe it's not the train though. Maybe it's Route 1 that she's taking. And you just see it so beautiful, and then it gets darker, and the houses by the sea are less and less brightly painted.
Yes.
And you know that you're going to someplace that has just given up or never even tried.
Right. Or has a different magnetic field about it.
Yeah, the sky isn't quite as that robin's egg blue. It just starts to cloud up, and it's always that cloudy.
The one thing I think they did really well in that 2012 film was depicting the village of Collinsport. I thought they did a magnificent job of creating that on basically what was a soundstage. I mean, it was pretty incredible. So I enjoyed that, and it did remind me of some of the communities like Boothbay Harbor and Belfast.
Oh, in the art direction, they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, they definitely did their research there. Absolutely.
Yeah, they did a real good job of transitioning what the past looked like and what the present looked like with the train, because their view of the past was like more from the sea, and the view of the present was more from the land. And I think that was a really fun and great transition in that movie. It's something
the design was great. I mean, I love the design of it.
Yeah. With this episode, guys, that means David here is back as Ben Stokes, the lovable Ben Stokes, and he's trying to convince. He wants to convince Barnabas not to bite the prostitute, we'll say. But yeah, that doesn't go over well. What did you guys think here?
Well, for those who don't know, spoiler alert: Crystal Cabot is actually Angelique. Crystal Cabot is a key, I mean, she's put in there to sort of torture Barnabas. Angelique has figured out, oh, he's traveled back into my world again. Ha ha ha. I'm going to give it to him with both barrels, and she does. And this leads into, of course, the rest of the week of this whole dramatic thing, and the drama peaks very well, bringing Angelique back into the storyline anytime they could possibly do it, because it always seemed to just boost the ratings, as Dan Curtis himself would admit to. So yeah, this whole thing with Crystal Cabot. I sent you guys some photographs, which were taken on this day backstage. And this interesting thing, I'm not sure if this kid took some of these pictures or not, but there was a kid named Walter Miller that did a brief reference to this episode and being at the studio that day in the first edition of the Dark Shadows Almanac.
Yeah.
His name is Walter Miller. So that's the kind of thing I find interesting. Again, like your day-by-day thing, I want to know it's fun to know what's going on at the same time in the real world or in and around the studio.
Meanwhile, in the real world.
Yes, exactly. There are kids pounding on the door. Some of them were let into the studio.
It was in the cabinet there. What did you got? Yeah, Patrick, what did you think of Angelique here? Well, she's in the next episode, but
it's implied.
Yes.
Yeah, it's implied, yeah.
What do I think of Angelique in the time trap sequence? Or
yes.
Yeah, well, she's wonderful. And she gets basically her last double cross in.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is when Barnabas lets her know, I'm serious here. I could have done this the whole time.
Right.
And I didn't. But
now we're going to
fucked over Vicky, pardon my French. And I've had all I can stand, and I can't stand no more. What I think is really funny though is how long they had to wait around with Ben Stokes with that torch.
Yeah,
they had to keep relighting it, and just keep it lit, Ben. Just keep it lit. She'll be here any minute. I suppose, Mr. Barnabas, but I don't know.
Not light her on fire, literally. Okay, there.
You know what would have been really interesting if Barnabas would have found a flamethrower before going back, took it back, and then used that on it.
They just sitting casually in a wingback chair, sort of.
Yeah.
With those massive backs on the
you
edge
see
of
the
it.
kerosene spitting before it bursts into flame.
Angelique, choose your words very wisely.
That's right.
Yeah.
My trigger finger is very fast.
That's right.
It's
this is napalm. You're done. We brought it with us from the future.
Yeah.
It's like the guy in the dentist chair who grabs onto the dentist's testicles and says, "And we have an understanding, right? We're not going to hurt each other, are we?"
And in the credits, after the flamethrower is used, it says, "A flamethrower courtesy United States Army General Westmoreland, commanding officer."
There you go. Yeah,
have you met my friend, the U.S. Corps of Engineers? Well, they're on my back right now. In the best way.
The woman in question, who's going to be revealed as Angelique in the next episode, the body's found in the chair in Barnabas's father's study as Jonathan Frid, as Barnabas, is like contemplating, oh my God, I bit somebody again. I did it again. I could not overcome the urge to get blood.
And here she is behind door number 3.
I have a theory about this. I have a theory about this because there are long stretches where Barnabas is a vampire. He doesn't bite anybody.
Right. It's true.
And so either he just bites them because he thinks he has to, but I don't buy that. After a while, he would get it.
Mm-hmm.
But notice he tends to use more superpowers after he's bitten people.
Yeah.
And that he always has some abilities, but it's when he's really drinking the hard stuff that he's turning into bats, he's turning invisible, he's like teleporting through walls. And I think it's the amount of blood he's had.
Sure.
I agree. Yeah, I would agree.
It's like Popeye.
Yeah. I definitely 1000% agree with you, because every time Barnabas does use a power, he's got a feed.
He's got a full complement of of hemoglobin going on.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. A little meter.
That's why I think when there's a Dark Shadows game, there should be a meter every time you use a supernatural power.
50%.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah,
you could do that in a game. You could have, every round it goes down a little bit, and he can do fewer and fewer interesting things until he fills back up.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And that's interesting because it's a every time, because I design board games, and the paranoia effect in town starts to go up a little more as he gets weaker and the town gets a little stronger.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely. It is nice to see Nancy Bear here as Millicent. Very, very lovely. It's also nice to see Joel Carruthers here as Lieutenant Forbes. What did you guys think of Millicent in this episode, listening to Nathan?
She's using her powers of naivete to combat his charm, I think, is what she's doing in this jailhouse scene. It's like, I like you, you're really hot, but I don't think I'm going to drive a stake through Cousin Barnabas. What's kind of going on in her mind. She plays it great though, because you can see her eyes come into focus about certain things and other things she doesn't not want to deal with, and she goes out, and the timbre in her voice changes and everything else. She isn't as sharp, so she does a really great job of that sort of going in and out, and Carruthers is responding to that, because he knows at the end of that scene, it's probably pretty hopeless.
Yeah. Joel Carruthers does a great job in this episode trying to convince Millicent.
Mm-hmm.
You would say
he tries.
You would say it's a proper goodbye for Joel,
but
he always brought his A game.
He did.
He never brought anything less. I mean, what a pro! God, I really miss that guy, and there's a part of me that wonders if they only had so much in a budget, and if to afford David Selby, they had to, even if it costs the same, we just can't afford both.
I also think Carruthers may have been complaining that he wasn't getting enough meaty stuff going on, and they started using him less, and he probably
could be, but they gave him more and more to do as he's going crazy.
They did,
really
that's sort of like this is like the sayonara sort of
phasing him out. Yeah. It's hard to come back from that, because there are people in Dark Shadows who are suited to deal with the realities of the supernatural, and there are people in Dark Shadows who simply aren't.
Right.
And Joel is one of those who simply does not.
Right.
And God bless him. This is the price.
Yeah.
You've seen too much. Whereas Carolyn, she does have the benefit of being vampirized, sort of. Carolyn can handle it.
Yeah, she can. She cracks, but she doesn't break. And that's good writing, and that's also good response to the writing on her part.
The pink thing with My Little Ponies in it, not the bucket with the plushies.
No, the pink basket with the My Little Ponies was by our bed. Okay. Anyway. So yeah. What's you guys' favorite scene in this episode?
I think the replay of his dealing with Forbes. I just love the fact that, first time through, he gets shot, although it's in the wrong place. Second time through, he's ready.
Yeah, vive la différence, and the way they explore that. And
Barnabas is grown up.
Really explore it. They don't just walk through it.
Yeah.
The scene that I found a little bit off-putting, I felt bad for the actors, was when he attacks Crystal Cabot, and there's supposed to be a struggle there, and she doesn't really get into the struggle, and then they just draw the camera back, and she gets up, and you hear a splash. So I would have thought that there would have been better choreography in that to get her to the point where she goes her splash, and it was, he did this thing where he went in on her and then he backed off again. with the fangs flashing all over the place. And it was a little awkward, and I think, I don't know if they just needed to kill more time or whether that interaction between the two of them wasn't working as well as it should have.
Yeah,
I mean, it's live, it's tough, I'm
You gotta wonder.
I didn't care. I was like, wow, fangs.
So she goes into the water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does Barnabas sit there and wonder, am I hungrier or colder right now? Do I really go into the water in this outfit and fish her out? Because that's going to be really uncomfortable. Or do I just kind of diet for the evening?
That's right. We're going to diet for the evening, I think. But he salvages it with his reaction at the end of it.
Yes.
I think. I think he salvages it by that whole we regret to inform you kind of look on his face.
And I think they do a really. My favorite scene is when you watch Barnabas come back into his father's side. You can just see the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, what was that? It's like, wait, what was that moment?
Yeah.
That I loved in this episode.
Yep.
Very, very much. Very, very, very psychological, very intense, very surprising.
Good night.
Is there anything you guys want to add about this episode before we go?
Now you make me want to watch 664.
Yeah,
I really do.
This whole sequence is really good because it gets you. It sort of wraps up a bunch of stuff. At least ostensibly, it wraps up a bunch of stuff for a while. We get to see Angelique again. We get to see her go bye-bye, which is satisfying in its way because of how badly she's misbehaving.
Mm-hmm.
But
it shows us Barnabas's confidence that it is really building him up as Barnabas the time traveling hero, which we're about to see a lot of in about a month or so, month and a half. Yeah.
Scenario. It's good establishment.
I think it's mid-February that that we get to episode.
That's right. We're in early January at this point. We're in
it's priming the pump. Oh, this isn't early January. This is Christmas.
When it's taped, yes, but when it
oh yeah, you're right.
When it actually broadcast was in this one was filmed on New Year's Eve. And it aired on the 8th.
Okay.
So it aired today.
I always wonder, in terms of when episodes hit, and if there's any consideration vis-a-vis ratings and where kids are.
Yeah, no, I thought about that.
This will be a nice way to let the kids go back to school, give them something to look forward to when they come home. A little New Year's gift.
I'm sure that it didn't hurt. I think this little time travel probably did spike the ratings again before they had to go back and establish, and get deeper into the Quentin thing for another month and a half before they, went off.
So imagine, you're off for Christmas break and they're building up to this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so what's this Dark Shadows thing? Let's tune in. People are tuning in because they've been harangued by the kids to finally watch or by their school friends to finally watch. And you get this great capsule. How Barnabas became a vampire and this flashback stuff, but it's sort of an alternate universe take.
Mm-hmm.
And what a great primer this is for their greatest sequence ever, 1897.
Yeah. This is the kind of thing, if you're tuning in for the first time, it's interesting. It's going to get you. It's probably, unless you're completely just not into this genre, it's going to get you.
For people who have not seen Dark Shadows, this is one of the sequences on the show that's a great introduction.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you guys want to do 664 tomorrow, or?
I would not mind at all.
Yep.
All right. Link to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Daybook on about it's going to be in the description box. Link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel, Collinsport After Dark, is going to be in the description box. Somebody's going to get set on fire, and it's none of us.
I hope.
Take care.
Bye.